Hey everyone, Mark Pierce, Bassmaster Classic Qualifier. It's the end of May, post-spawn is on. No better time than start crankbaiting. I want to go over some crankbait stuff with you guys today. Talk about the rods, talk about the hooks and all that good stuff. Mostly I use a Strike King crankbait. And we got from here, we got 10XD, 8XD, the 6XD, and all the way down to the 5. Now, you always want to swap the hooks out on these crankbaits because the factory ones, they just don't get it done very well. And an easy guide is you start at the 2-aught hook with your 10XD. And I use the KVD Mustad 2x short, 1 strong hook. Phenomenal hook, holds those fish really well. Like I said, 2-aught with the 10XD, drop down 1 hook size for each crankbait. Go to the 8XD, a 1-aught. You go to the 6XD, number 1 hook. You go to the 5, you use a number 2. Keep it as simple as possible, guys. All right. The rod I throw this on, this is a St. Croix Magnum cranker. It's a 7'10" rod heavy with a moderate action to it. And you want a reel that's in that 5-to-1 gear ratio. This is a Revo winch. It's 5.4-to-1. And it's really going to absorb a lot of that pull from that crankbait. This reel and this rod combined, you can throw a 10XD on it all day long and it's not going to fatigue you. It's going to work really well. So, key thing is when you find a group of fish, is to try to get them fired up and react to that thing. And every time I see a little bit of school fish on my low ranch structure scan, I'm going to fire it out there, make the longest cast I possibly can, and I'm going to take that crankbait and work it pretty fast and steady with a lot of short pauses. They usually are going to hit it on that pause. If you can't get them to fire initially, I'm going to burn that crankbait as fast as I possibly can and stop. Now what happens is when you're burning that crankbait, it gets their attention. They really didn't see it. But when it stops, it's right there in their face. It's fight or flight. They got to eat it or not. And basically, when that crankbait stops in their face while they're tailing it, their instinct is to just eat that bait. And that's going to catch you a lot more fish, guys. Let's talk about line size real quick. It's pretty simple with me. I use 10-pound Gamma fluorocarbon fishing line on the 6XD and the 5 series crankbait. When I move up to the 8 and the 10XD, which is a heavier bait, I go to a 12-pound test line. A lot of people like 14 or 16. The Gamma 12-pound line is plenty strong enough. The only time you're going to have issues with the line being light is when you're casting a bait. When you go to cast a bait that weighs over an ounce and you're throwing it on 10 line and you're doing that repeatedly a lot, your line's going to snap while you're casting it out. So I go back up to a 12-pound test line for the 8 and the 10XDs, and I use 10-pound line for the other crankbaits. So if you guys try those tips out, you should catch a lot more fish on your post-spawn offshore fishing this year.